Is ISIS a crisis because we're godless? Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and holy moly, look at the holy uproar I started. And it all began with a chap named Nigel, as in Nigel Farage, the man who many say just could be Britain's next prime minister, telling me on Fox why he thinks ISIS is knocking on our door. We're all but letting them in because, as Nigel sees it, we in the West have just about slammed the door on God. That we're into this multiculturalism to the extent that we've all but invited terrorism. Now, forget about Judeo-Christian. When it comes to any religious core, Nigel says we've got nothing. And leave it to a media mogul named Rupert Murdoch to put his considerably more than 2 cents in. Nigel Farage was here not too long ago, Rupert, saying there's something maybe more basic or systemic going on here and across the globe, and that is what binds us religiously, that we become a secularized world, maybe in this country, as he mentioned about Britain, losing its sort of Judeo-Christian values, and that this feeds this mentality. What do you think?
I have to think hard about that, but I think there's a lot to it, absolutely. But that's something that happened in Australia some time ago, and the then Prime Minister came out and made it very clear, if you migrate to this country, if you live here and want citizenship, you accept our values and our laws. And in this country, there have been some recent terrible, terrible scandals where they haven't done anything. They've been hidden by local councils and so on, in order, because they thought they'd look racist.
So think about this. Is ISIS on a roll because increasingly secular societies have given God the heat? I know it's a little unusual to get things going, but I thought it'd get folks going because certainly I got a lot of emails and tweets on this subject to Ben Stein, Charles Payne, David McDowell, along with Adam Lashinsky and Charlie Gasparino. All right, Ben Stein, what do you make of what is being said here?
Well, I say amen, amen, and amen. Nation, the very root of nation, means people born of the same blood. Now, obviously, in America, we have many different bloods, and we're never going to be of one blood. But we can be of one blood in the sense of respect for law, respect for tradition, respect for culture, respect for each other's dignity as human beings. I don't want people coming here who do not believe in the dignity of human beings and believe that it is right to kill other human beings because of a different religion. I think it's absolutely essential, and just for me, to put God back in our lives, and the God that believes that all men should respect all other men and women.
Charles, what do you think?
I agree 1,000% with Ben, and I would take it even further, because I do believe the more we have pushed out God, the more the foundations of our country have crumbled. And it goes to a lot of basic things. I just think that we as a people, we've shunned the idea of marriage, we've shunned the idea of children, we've shunned the idea of going to, to religious services. I think we're going to pay a really heavy price for that. And I think it's pretty obvious that we already are. And of course, people who come here who have no intent of ever trying to assimilate, ever removing the chip on their shoulder that they might have had, because people in the past who came, they were happy. They saw the Statue of Liberty. They came to Ellis Island. They were thrilled. They fell to their knees. It's ironic that a lot of people, now Europe has it a lot worse than we do, because we do have a lot of Christians who come up and who, they seem to assimilate a lot quicker and easier than they do in Europe. But I think it's
to your point, Farage is saying it's a lot worse than England, a lot worse in France. But what do you make of this, Charlie?
I think it's beyond religion. I think it's an identifying ideal of the country, a unifying ideal. We went from a melting pot where we were, all coming into one, to this sort of this crackpot. Yes, it's the best way to put it, multiculturalism. And it's forced us to identify ourselves. Listen, we're never going to be milquetoast nation. Who wants that, right? But when you celebrate your differences, you lead to Bosnia, Herzegovina, and all the bad stuff that happened. We should point out that Mr. Murdoch, when he was talking about the crime that occurred, that they didn't want to talk about it, it was a child abuse case where in Britain,
That's right,
there's a string of child rapes done apparently by Pakistani immigrants against white children, and they didn't want to talk about it because of that.
They didn't want to talk about their nationality or religion.
And they didn't want to
left out of the press.
And it was left out of the press. I mean, it's actually sick if you think about it.
What do you make of it, Dagan?
Well, what has been going on the last several decades in Britain, it's impossible to find anything that compares here in the U.S. It is essentially a state-sponsored form of tolerating a type of Muslim racism and sexism, where you didn't have to share values on equality of the sexes, on women's rights, on democracy and integration, and it has caused, I mean, it has fomented essentially terrorism in that country and militants to go into other countries, and it's frightening, and we just have to be watchful that it never happens here.
Adam, what you have a politician saying and a mogul saying in sync is that we've kind of become overly politically correct. Not kind of, we have. And that is what has changed, most from the times of our parents, grandparents, that is what's changed. We were way, way, way too politically correct.
I don't necessarily agree, Neil. I think Dagan actually just made
I just want to say you disagree with Rupert Murdoch. Right, continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was very interested, Neil, that you. I was interested, Neil, that you called him Rupert, but Charlie called him Mr. Murdoch. That was very interesting.
Or Roop.
Dagan made a valuable contribution to this conversation right now, which is this, Neil. I mean, in
by the way,
our country,
no one else did, I guess. But go ahead.
So, in our country, you can believe whatever you like, and that's codified. That's one of our values. You can believe whatever you like, but you cannot behave in a racist way or in certain sexist ways. I mean, we've put this into the law.
Can
and we
you really
said you do that,
anything you want in our
and
country?
we're going to prosecute you. So I completely disagree with Charlie. I think we are still a melting pot country. And we are still a nation of immigrants.
You don't think something's changed?
Adam, you can go to college campuses. Let's just be clear. You can go to a college campus and basically express your conservative beliefs. That is not true. Multiculturalism is destroying. Multiculturalism is destroying.
Hold on. Let me address that,
let me finish. It is destroying
I think you're wrong.
the First Amendment, and it is happening here. I will tell you this. I've worked in plenty. I've worked in plenty of newsrooms in my life. You don't realize the hand-wringing among, Adam, we're both news reporters, among our colleagues about the religious right. You never hear the same hand-wringing about people who are infinitely more fanatical, meaning radical Islamic, radical Islam.
Let me take your point, Charlie.
More
Very
radical.
fine point taken. All right, Adam, respond to that.
I think you're confusing, if you want to talk about conservative speech on campus. I think you're confusing the ability to speak with
speech codes?
Shouting down. You're an expert on this. The ability to speak versus popularity. I grant you that these are unpopular ideas.
No.
Have you heard of that?
With all due respect.
It's very hard to have a conversation with you.
You've heard of speech codes, right, Adam? They occur at universities.
All right, can I step back, guys, and go to Ben? He's a little older, and I would suspect a little wiser than some of us, and he has a perspective that maybe spans a greater period of time. So to what these gentlemen have been saying, and Dagan has touched on as well, is there something to this notion that we changed as a country?
We have changed as a country. I have seen it myself. I was not allowed to speak at the University of Vermont unless, when I was supposed to be the graduation speaker, I was not allowed to speak unless I promised not to mention God or question Darwinian evolution. They made me promise to do that.
Is that right?
And I said I would not do that, and therefore I was disinvited. The second is, Dagan made a brilliant point. What happened in Rotherham and all throughout England with these massive rapes of these little girls by Muslims was nothing less than terrorism. It was an act of terrorism. It was serious, real terrorism. It was the police let them get away with it because of political correctness. Please, God, don't let it ever happen here or there again.
Let's take the next leap, Charles Payne, and say, all right, if you're ISIS, and I don't want to speak to them as just this giant group, and you're seeing the way we're treating incidents like that here in England and Australia, what do you do? What do you think?
You take advantage of it. Listen, I think about 9/11. The terrorists knew that they could take advantage of our calm, compassionate, you know, you sit up, you have the box cutter, we'll allow them to land the plane somewhere. In other words, our civility is what they have leaped all over on, and our civility often is steeped in the belief of God. I just believe that the atheist movement has become so powerful. It controls so much of the media, so much of policy. It frightens me so badly where this country is going to be, because we have definitely kicked God to the curb. As far as some of the other multicultural things, it's a tough, big word, and it means so many different things to different people. I wish when the discussion was up, people would say, well, what does that word mean to me? I tell you what I don't like. I don't like when I see a bunch of students in California with Mexican flags at an American school. You know, it's one thing to say, listen, you know, so anyway,
we've all embraced our heritage. I mean,
I mean when
the Feast of San Gennaro,
like, you know,
well, I agree.
Why did you go to the Feast of San Gennaro?
They are very. We are not milk toast nation.
And you're Italian. Oh, I didn't. Okay.
No, but
Gotcha.
you know, but here's the thing I want to say, and one problem I have with your analysis is the religion part. Why weren't we able to find the 9/11 terrorists when they were here? Why didn't people report them? Why wasn't it odd when they were flying planes? They only wanted to know how to take off and not how to land. Why did people?
It was reported.
It was reported. I believe it was maybe reported, but the FBI didn't follow up. Why didn't Major Hassan's his radical beliefs? Why wasn't that reported and stopped? And it's political.
Because we coddle some people.
Because of our values as a country.
We coddle those
political correctness.
We coddle those people who hate us.
Those things are reported, but we don't act on them.
Why? Because it's political.
We don't act on
Why
them.
was
well, whatever it is, there's something going on, and it's enough to have gotten the attention of a guy who could be the next Prime Minister of Britain, and the guy's already one of the richest people on earth, despite the fact that Adam Lashinsky feels free to diss him, but that's, you know, Adam. When we come back, the taxpayers are already paying the price for opening the doors and books to illegal kids. We report. You